You're looking at a cut that won't heal. It's been 2 weeks. The antibiotics stopped working. The doctor uses a word you don't recognize, resistant, meaning the drugs have nothing left to fight with. But in the room next door, a nurse is reaching for something that looks like it belongs in your kitchen cabinet.
The honey itself
7
wasn't the
things
cure.
about this one ingredient
It was
will
the
change how you
delivery
think about
method.
medicine forever. And the last one, a specific grade with a number on the label, is what hospitals are now quietly ordering for their most dangerous cases. That's where we're going. This ingredient is honey. Raw, unprocessed honey, not the squeezable bear in the grocery aisle. The real thing, straight from the comb, never heated above the temperature of the hive. And before you think you already know this, you don't. Not this part. Picture this. You're 3 days into a blackout. Power's been out since Tuesday. You slipped on the second day and opened a deep gash on your forearm. You have no antibiotics. The nearest hospital is closed. The wound is already red around the edges. And red means bacteria are setting up shop inside it. You have one option sitting in your pantry. Raw honey applied directly to a wound creates a physical barrier that bacteria cannot cross. It pulls moisture out of the wound through a process called osmosis, which just means it draws liquid out of the bacterial cells the same way salt draws water out of a cucumber. The bacteria shrivel and die before they can multiply. Egyptian surgeons used this on battlefield wounds 4,000 years ago. The clinical trials that confirmed why it works came out of Cardiff University in 2011. But here's what almost nobody mentions when they talk about honey on wounds. It doesn't just kill what's already there, it prevents new bacteria from entering at all. And that second property is the one that matters most in a survival situation, because you don't get to go back and re-sterilize. You've probably used hydrogen peroxide from a brown bottle to clean a cut. You pour it on, it bubbles. That bubbling is the bacteria dying. Raw honey makes that same compound on its own, continuously, as long as it stays in contact with moisture. The enzyme responsible is called glucose oxidase, which just means it's a biological trigger inside the honey that converts its natural sugars into a slow, steady release of hydrogen peroxide. Not a one-time dose, a constant drip, for as long as the honey stays on the wound. Think of it like a battery that keeps recharging itself. The brown bottle empties after one pour. Honey keeps producing. The concentration it releases is low enough not to damage your own tissue, high enough to kill pathogens, meaning harmful microorganisms like bacteria, viruses, and fungi, on contact. This is not folk medicine, this is chemistry. Tested, verified, and published in peer-reviewed journals, which just means independent scientists confirm the same results and put them on record for anyone to check. And here is the first clue about that last item. The compound that makes it worth ordering by the caseload in hospitals is not hydrogen peroxide. It is something else entirely, something that works even when the peroxide effect can't. Keep that thread. Here is where most people, even people who have read a lot about natural remedies, get this completely wrong. They think honey is a backup plan, something you reach for when nothing else is available. That assumption has cost lives. MRSA, which stands for methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, meaning a strain of staph bacteria that has evolved to survive every standard antibiotic thrown at it, has been found in multiple studies to be killed by raw honey when prescription drugs could not touch it. Dr. Rose Cooper at the University of Wales published research showing that certain honeys applied topically, meaning directly on the skin, were effective against MRSA biofilms. A biofilm is a protective shell that bacteria build around a colony, like a fortress wall, to survive antibiotic attacks. Honey penetrates it. Antibiotics increasingly cannot. This is not an argument against modern medicine. It is an argument for knowing what existed before modern medicine, and why the best parts of it are coming back. But killing bacteria on a surface is one thing. What honey does inside your body is something most people have never heard about, and the research on it came out of a place you would not expect. You have been drinking water from a questionable source for 3 days. The stomach cramping started on the second night. By the third morning, you know something got in. Waterborne bacterial infections, bacteria that enter through contaminated water and colonize your gut, can take you off your feet within 24 hours if you have nothing to fight them with. 1 tablespoon of raw honey dissolved in warm water 3 times a day has been shown in clinical trials to inhibit H. pylori, a bacterium that invades the stomach lining and causes severe inflammation and ulcers. Inhibit means it stops the bacteria from reproducing and spreading. The mechanism here is different from the wound application. Inside the body, honey's natural compounds, including flavonoids, which are plant-based molecules that act like chemical shields, disrupt the outer membrane of the bacteria, the protective layer that keeps it alive and replicating. A New Zealand study found that a specific grade of honey reduced H. pylori colonies by over 85% within 72 hours. That is not a supplement, that is a weapon. Still haven't gotten to the last item. Here's clue 2. It comes from one specific country, one specific plant, and the number on its label tells you exactly how powerful it is before you open the jar. Most people walk past it every day without knowing what that number means. By the end of this, you will. The temperature inside a house fire reaches over 1,000 degrees within 4 minutes. But you do not have to be in a fire to get a serious burn. A knocked over pot, a live wire, a generator exhaust. In an emergency without a hospital close by, a burn is one of the most dangerous injuries you can have. Not from the initial damage, but from the infection that follows in the hours after. Honey has been used on burns for centuries. A 2011 Cochrane review, which is a comprehensive analysis of every published study on a given topic, considered the gold standard in medical evidence, found that honey healed partial thickness burns, meaning burns that damage the top 2 layers of skin, faster than conventional dressings. The reason is threefold. Honey keeps the wound moist, which cells need in order to regenerate. It prevents bacterial colonization while the skin rebuilds, and it does not stick to the wound the way gauze does, meaning when you change the dressing, you're not tearing off the new tissue that just formed. Apply it directly, cover it loosely, change it twice a day. That is the protocol. Most people prep with bandages and antiseptic wipes. Neither one does all 3 of those things simultaneously, and only one substance does all 3 while also never expiring. That substance is the reason we're here. In a grid down scenario, meaning no electricity, no supply chain, no way to resupply, food spoilage becomes a serious threat within 48 hours for most of what is in your refrigerator. Honey never spoils, not in a decade, not in a century. Archaeologists opened sealed pots of honey found in Egyptian tombs over 3,000 years old. The honey was still edible. This happens because honey contains almost no free water, meaning the water molecules inside it are already chemically bound to sugar molecules and are unavailable for bacteria or mold to use to grow. It also has a naturally low pH, meaning it sits on the acidic side of the chemical scale, similar to vinegar. Bacteria cannot survive in an acidic environment. Store it sealed at room temperature, away from direct light. No refrigeration required, no rotation schedule needed, the way canned goods demand. One sealed jar of raw honey in your emergency kit is simultaneously medicine and nutrition, indefinitely. And here is the third clue. The version hospitals use is not just any raw honey, it is standardized to a specific, tested, certified potency. The number on its label tells the medical team exactly how strong the active compound is before they apply it to a patient. That number is not decorative, it is a dosage. Every point in this video has been pointing toward this one. You just did not know it yet. Here is everything you already know. It kills bacteria that antibiotics cannot touch. It heals wounds and burns faster than conventional dressings. It works inside your body and on the surface of it. It never expires. It comes from one specific plant in one specific country. It carries a number on the label that is a direct measurement of its potency, and hospitals are ordering it by the caseload for their most dangerous, drug-resistant infections. You are one sentence away from knowing exactly what it is. Here is where that sentence starts. You're inside a hospital wound care unit. The patient in room 4 has a post-surgical infection, meaning bacteria have colonized a wound that was made during an operation. Every antibiotic on the ward has been tried. The infection is spreading. The wound care nurse opens a sterile, single-use pouch and saturates a dressing in a dark amber substance with a clinical label. The label reads, MediHoney, UMF 20+. MediHoney is the FDA-cleared wound dressing, meaning the United States Food and Drug Administration has officially approved it as a medical device made from medical-grade Manuka honey. Manuka honey comes exclusively from bees that pollinate the Manuka tree, a plant native only to New Zealand and parts of southeastern Australia. It cannot be replicated anywhere else on Earth. The bees, the tree, the soil, they only exist there. The number on the label, UMF, which stands for Unique Manuka Factor, measures the concentration of a compound called methylglyoxal, or MgO. MgO is a chemical found only in Manuka honey that has no equivalent in any other honey on the planet. It does not depend on moisture to activate. It does not break down over time. It is stable, persistent, and lethal to bacteria. At concentrations, the honey produces entirely on its own. UMF 10+ is considered therapeutic grade, meaning it contains enough MgO to produce a measurable clinical effect on an infection. UMF 20+ is what hospital wound care teams use for antibiotic-resistant cases. A jar rated UMF 25+ contains a concentration of MgO that has been shown in laboratory conditions to kill MRSA-E. Coli and Pseudomonas aeruginosa, a hospital-acquired bacteria, meaning one patient's catch inside the hospital itself that kills tens of thousands of immunocompromised patients every single year. The Cardiff University research team tested Manuka honey at UMF 20+ against every bacterial strain they could find. It inhibited all of them, including strains that had developed resistance to every antibiotic in the hospital's entire available supply. Hospitals in the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, Germany, and increasingly the United States are now ordering MediHoney for their wound care units, not as a last resort, as a first-line treatment for cases where antibiotics have already failed. You can buy UMF-certified Manuka honey at most health food stores and online. A 250-gram jar of UMF 20 Plus costs between $30 and $60. It stores indefinitely. It requires no prescription. It requires no refrigeration. It requires nothing except knowing it exists and having it on your shelf before you need it. It is the oldest clinically validated antibiotic on Earth, and it is back. Raw honey on wounds. Hydrogen peroxide that never runs out. MRSA stopped without a prescription. Gut bacteria slowed in 72 hours. Burns healed faster than gauze. Food that never expires. And one jar of UMF 20 Plus doing in a hospital wound care unit what every antibiotic on the floor could not. That is the protocol. The nurse quietly opening that MediHoney pouch is not doing something experimental. She is doing something ancient that modern science finally caught up to. You now know exactly what she is using and exactly why it works. If this changed what you plan to put in your home kit, share it with one person who would never think to keep honey in their first aid drawer. The algorithm puts this in front of the people who need it when you help it along. Stay ready.